myself. So good morning to everybody. I'm so glad that that you are all here with us today. Welcome to our very first Minding Your Own Business webinar. Today we're going to be talking about virtual meetings and virtual presentations, and you know, we as an industry have collectively moved in this direction. So we felt like it was time to hear from the creative decision makers who have done some of these with artists and reps to give us their thoughts and insights regarding this new normal. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our lovely panel. I can't even tell you how wonderful these women are. Every one of them was like, yes, when I asked, and I love that about you. And so here we are. So Ida Garland is an associate art buyer at Callista Media. Before that, she worked at Entertainment Weekly and Hearst Magazine, Lifestyle Hub. And when I asked her what got her into this crazy business, she told me, and I'm going to let Ida answer this directly.
Yes. So I basically got into this industry. You know, I studied fine art photography. I loved it. But then as I, started coming to New York and working and all that, I noticed how many great photographers existed. And I basically was like, you know what? I want to take care of the artists. I want to make sure they're supported, and the company, I can bring in the best talent. So instead, I'm going to let them do the amazing photography and I'll just take care of them. So that's kind of what got me into this.
I love that answer. Nurturing people is an admirable quality that I personally value a ton. So the only other thing I want to share with you about Ida is that she also loves sneakers and is so proud by her vast sneaker collection. And she apologizes to her wallet regularly for this addiction. How many pairs, Ida?
I think I have probably like 15 pairs of sneakers, and that's like growing. And that's like just started. My partner is a huge sneakerhead, so he grew this love for me.
I see.
Yeah, it's a fun thing for me.
That's not as many as I was sort of hearing when I read. I got to be honest.
Special edition, so they're different.
I see. Okay. All right, I'm not understanding. I feel it. Okay. So Jana Juros, did I say it right? That's 2 for 2. We're very impressed now. So Jana is the Associate Creative Director at FCB Health. Before that, she was at Fancy NYC and Publicis. What got Jana into this crazy business? Do you want to answer that for us, Jana? Or do you remember what you wrote to me?
I don't even remember what I wrote.
Okay, so this was a really interesting one. And I feel like, so during the first Iraq War.
Right.
You got it? All right, you go.
Right. I was teaching in Texas, first grade, and I met somebody there who said, you know what, you should really talk to this person at this ad agency. And I went to the ad agency and I saw the work that they did creating culture with photography and illustration. And I kind of fell in love with this idea that you would be able to concept work like that. And then he told me, this is the book that got me my job. This is where I produced and learned how to do that work. And so I said, okay, that sounds great. I should do that. And so I went to Art Center and then I graduated and moved to New York.
Wow.
So that's how I got the business. Yeah.
Okay. And so she also, and this little tidbit is like my favorite, I have to be honest. She can make a fabulous party hat out of pretty much anything in about 5 to 10 minutes. Now these sound like 5 to 10 minutes, sounds like they're relatively elaborate. So if you're having any kind of party, she's happy to make some. And she confessed that she has the dubious distinction of being the hat lady on the bar mitzvah circuit in LA back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that, but I'm madly in love with that. I think that's fantastic.
You know what, you do what you need to do to make money for college tuition. That's really the rule.
There you go. Okay, and so last but not least, Jen Lamping is the Vice President and Director of Art Production at RPA. Her work history includes Saatchi and Saatchi, Giant Artist, TBWA Shia Day, and Mocha. When I asked her what got her into this crazy business, she said,
it's really simple, love of art.
It is really simple. And so, okay, one fun thing that happened during the pandemic is Jen got into cycling and did her first century ride from Long Beach to San Diego. Okay, how many miles is that?
100 century, yeah.
Holy Toledo. Oh, century, well, duh. Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
it was
amazing.
really a cool experience. And now I'm into it. So yeah.
Well, so I'm Heidi and I work at Workbook and I'm just super excited to be here. If you don't know about me, you can always ask me anytime you want to. So we're going to move on to the panel and what we are here to discuss. So here's the first question. I'm going to go to Ida with it. Are you doing a lot of virtual meetings?
I am actually, I really am. One of my biggest things is that I really do try to stay on top of culture and trends and who's hot, who is growing evergreen and their style and all of that. So I actually really do try to stay as close to agents and production companies as I can. So I would say maybe like once a week, I have a meeting here and there, like maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on my schedule, because things can get crazy and we all know that. But yeah, I really try to keep, I try to make this thing really personal, like where I try to become, like a really good advocate for them and kind of approach them with our team and all of that. So yeah, I try really hard to have at least once every week or once every 2 weeks. So yeah.
And so just a little depth on that. Who are we meeting with? You're meeting with artists directly or you're meeting with their reps?
Yeah, so I typically meet with the reps. I'm happy to do a phone call with an artist if they want. It's easier for me to be able to talk to like an artist rep and kind of discuss rates, kind of discuss what their style is, if they have any artists that could really help our company and things like that. But I have had, phone calls and some Zoom meetings to kind of review portfolios and things like that. But I typically like to stick with artist rep for now.
And Jen, I'd love for you to answer the same question. Are you having a lot of virtual meetings right now?
Yeah, I mean, for a while, we just kind of put a pause on everything until we realized this was just going to become the new norm. And so we tried to figure out the best way that would work into our schedule. So we've kind of allotted a certain day of the week and a certain time slot that we kind of put on hold on the whole team's calendar. And we just kind of book time in that time frame so that we have the best chance of everyone being able to make it and we have a good turnout. And so now we're trying to do it like every other week or so. So we kind of like are scheduling out from there. And if we get to the point where we can do more, then we will. But yeah, it's been good to kind of bring it back into the fold.
That's great. And Jana, how about you?
Well, I love the idea of structuring a day a week where you say, hey, this is my open window. I think that's super smart. I'm going to steal that idea. I don't do as many meetings as I would like, partly because the work that I do is mostly pitch based. And so it's usually fast and furious. But I do virtual meetings with both artists and their reps, and then sometimes just the rep and sometimes just the artist. I love looking at work. And even if I'm not meeting virtually, if people send me PDFs or send me links, I'm always doing a deep dive to sort of, light my brain on fire with whatever's out there.
So that really brings me very nicely to the next question, which is how does somebody go about getting meetings with you guys? I mean, I think like everybody listening, everybody should adopt what Jen's doing with the whole weekly thing. I love that. And that's, wonderful. But how are people getting these meetings with you guys and who's attending? Is it the artist and the rep? Is it just the artist? Is it just the rep? I'm going to Jen's nodding at me, so I'm going to go to her with that question.
It's kind of the same way. It's just people reaching out and asking to set up time to meet with us. And then we kind of then schedule it out accordingly. And we've had a mix of artist reps where it's just the artist rep kind of running through the roster without any artists on the call. And then we've had like a whole full house with rep and artists, and each artist will go through and present their work and talk about their work during the pandemic. So it's been a mix, and we're totally open to any sort of combination of it, whatever works best. And then I've also had individual one-on-one portfolio reviews through, various means. So that I've kind of done separately outside of work, just to kind of keep that going as well.
So I want to go to Ida. I almost did it wrong, by the way. You all heard me adjust. So how are these meetings being set up with you? Is this everyone, or do we have a consensus that it's an email approach and, asking for a little bit of your time kind of a thing? Is there a specific amount of time that you're allotting for this?
Yeah, so I would say 30 minutes. I think 30 minutes, per agent and artist or just agent, you know, like kind of whatever breakdown you want to go for. I think 30 minutes is great. I think Zooms are hard now. We've all done them a million bajillion times. So I think 30 minutes is like, cool, I can still hit my meeting, but I also can meet you and we're all like a win-win. But yeah, so typically I just get emails. So I'll get emails, you know, I am big on the social media world, where I also think like when I know photographers or illustrators, I follow their work and I'm happy if they like, you know, they DM me and they're like, hey, you know, I would love to talk to you. And then we bring it to email. So I think, you know, really it does start with just a simple cold call, like on email, you know, any type of other way that you want to try it. I think it's all valuable. I think it just really depends on timing. And I also think it's understanding from the artist perspective, if the company is like, you know, also like for Callisto, we do a lot of food photography. So if somebody comes to me with lifestyle, what I'll typically do is just route them to someone that I know in the industry, where I'm like, you know, actually, I think you'd be a great fit for this magazine or this agency and all of that. So I still try and make an effort, but I think just a good cold email, a good cold, you know, Instagram message is cool.
Well, that's like the nicest thing I've ever heard. And so, like, I'm not good for you, but hey, go here. I mean, that's incredibly generous in terms of your time. And so it makes me want to ask you too. You mentioned DMing you, but also, do you guys get messages through LinkedIn and other social media that is there one that you're more responsive to than another one, or is it just catch as catch can?
I think it really just depends. I'm pretty active on all of it. I pretty much respond every single time, mainly because I think I'm one of those people that if I've gotten enough doors open for me, I'm going to make sure that I can open all of the doors I can for any type of artist that's been underrepresented, hasn't been seen, and deserves to be seen. So if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, like, I don't care how you do it, just don't call me. Just don't hit my cell, please, because it's personal. But, you know, a good email, a good LinkedIn message is great. Give me your link to your portfolio and check out a PDF, you know, things like that. Like, it also needs to be understood, like, we also need time to look through it. So if we don't respond the first, you know, day or two, just give us a little bit, we'll get to it, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Wow, you're like incredibly nice. No, I mean, you all are. There's a reason I invited you guys today, but I mean, that's like, that's exactly what we want to hear. I mean, that's the truth. And I see Jana has been nodding through this. I'd love for you to add to it.
You know, I am going to second what my colleagues here are talking about, is that everyone's schedules are in flux. And honestly, when you send out a cold call, you don't know whether that person on the other end of that email or DM or LinkedIn message is in the middle of a pitch. Are they on vacation? Are they putting out 34 other fires? And there's kind of some magic in not knowing. And so if somebody pings me, you know, once and then I don't get back to them because I'm just in smoke jumping mode, but then a couple of weeks later, they hit me up again, it's all good, because eventually I'm always going to look at the work. I just may get to it a little bit later. So I love when people say, hey, I'm sending you something interesting. And I have been spoiled my entire career with amazing art producers or art directors who will feed me work because they say, this is fun, this is amazing, you should see it. We all share work. And that's part of just like, I don't know, like I'm sending notes to people all the time, like, hey, I just saw this really great book. I just met this really great rep. You should talk to this person. You should talk to that person. This totally seems like you. And even if it's not for a job per se, or because that's their category, even if it's just kind of neat, you're just like, hey, inspiration, check it out. So all those different channels of connection just builds, you know, a richer network so we can all be more creative.
That's a great answer. Honest to gosh, we're all nodding.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to what are the realistic expectations of the meeting in terms of time frame. You all mentioned the half hour. We're in agreement too. That's a correct amount of time. Okay, and then preferred amount of people included. I mean, we touched a little bit like who are you meeting with? Do you have a preference in this regard? And I'm going to go with Jana on this one.
I'm actually going to say I'm going to downgrade the 30 minutes to 20 minutes and a bump. And I'm going to say that because when I've been on the other end trying to get a meeting with somebody else, I love being able to say, hey, you know what? Not a huge time bite for you. How about 20 minutes? But knowing that if the meeting's going really great, you might just get that extra 10 minutes that's for fun, but then I'm respectful in the upfront, setting expectations and empathy that their schedule's a little mad. And then just kind of always doing a time check in the middle of the meeting saying, hey, are we still good on time? Do you have
that's
extra
good.
minutes?
That's
Yeah.
a really good thing to do. Okay, that's
So
smart.
I'm more on the 20-minute end of things.
I think that's a good answer. So 20 to 30 minutes is seems to be a reasonable. And then did you have like a preferred amount of people? Do you want to be meeting with a whole group? Do you want it to be more one-on-one? You don't care. Nobody.
More the merrier. It's all good.
And now, do you guys all bring, you mentioned scheduling with your teams, and I think that's great, but you've also done one-on-ones. Do you have preferences, or it's nice to do everything? Jen, I'm going to see you nod.
I think the variety is good. I mean, I think, it just all depends on how you want to communicate, what you want to communicate. Like, do you have a lot to share? Is it more just kind of catching up and more conversational with a little, showing, because some people just want to chat and connect. And then, because you're already familiar with the work, or they just want to show you like their latest work, then how they've been able to cope and shoot during the pandemic, because you're already familiar with one another. So it's just kind of like a good face-to-face time. So it just really kind of depends on what you want to get out of it and how you want to connect.
It's fair. So I'm going to move on to preferred platform. I feel like this is a goofy question, but I've never been, like, Zoom is my thing. I've not been on, and apparently there's like 5 million of them. GoToMeetings, Microsoft Teams, Skype, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a preference of these platforms? And does that have any factoring in, like, or do you dictate your platform? Maybe that's a better question. Jen, I'm going to go to you because I saw you nod.
No, I don't have a preference. I really think, but you asked a great question. And I know that if I was on the other end of that, I would check with whomever I'm trying to get the meeting with and say, hey, so what's your preference? Because if they are zoomed out, all good. But if they're just like, I can't deal with learning a new platform. I just want to be able to click the buttons I know how to click.
Some of them are confusing, and each one has stuff in different places, and
And honestly, you don't know how many. I mean, right now, if I looked at all the windows I've got open on my screen and all the programs I've got rolling right now, if I knew I was trying to meet somebody who was on a GoToMeeting or a Skype, I'd be like, God, where is my Skype button? So I think you're right. Being generous with asking someone what their platform, reco or preferred platform is smart.
I do think, okay, that's great. And did anybody else have anything? Oh, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I mean, as an organization, we use Teams, but I know that it's not always the best for sharing video. It kind of doesn't really stream very well. So we found that sometimes if artists are going to show a mix of work and it includes video, that Zoom's probably better for that, or WebEx or something like that.
Well, that bodes the question, who's setting up that platform? Is it your team, your agencies on your side of it? Are they setting up the platform, or is it the whoever's coming in saying, hey, here's the link?
I mean, I think if it's we can set up the teams because that's what we use as an organization, but if the rep or the artist prefers Zoom, then we ask that they provide their professional account, because we don't necessarily use that as an organization. So, or if they have a WebEx, kind of send that over and we'll use that.
Yeah, I don't know what WebEx is now. I feel like this is WebEx. So Ida, did you want to add anything to that before we move on?
I mean, I'm on the same page as everyone. I also think it's a really kind thing to do, is to ask for a preference. We use Zoom only. So I'm like, kind of like, I've been catered to Zoom, and it's been great because it's easy. I'll typically like ask like, hey, do you want me to supply the Zoom like meeting, or would you like to supply it? Let me know. I think just transparency is always great. It's just so easy to be able to have the artist rep kind of showcase the work through Zoom and kind of go through PDFs if they've created anything or a presentation. So but honestly, it's just because like Callisto uses specifically Zoom. So I think it could be like that with anything, but yeah.
Well, you're bringing me right to where I wanted to go next, which is, I love that. So when we're in, so somebody's got to set up a meeting with you. Let's just say it's a one-on-one meeting, or let's just say it's one-on-one meeting. Do you have a preference in terms of You know, I know that with Zoom, you can do screen shares and so on. Do you prefer to be the driver, or do you want them to navigate for you? Do you guys have that kind of, and Jen's nodding, so I'm going to go to her because I feel like she's like, yeah, I got something. Go ahead.
Yeah, personal preference. I know some people are like, you go ahead and drive, you know, whatever looks interesting to you, if it's like their website. But I always really like the presenter to drive, just because they know exactly what they want to talk about, where they want to go, what they want to show me. And if we need to stop or go back, I'll say something, but I always kind of like them to kind of do the screen share and to kind of go through everything, because it's their work and I want them to be able to do it the way they'd like to.
Well, and they know where everything is, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I see Ida and Jana nodding about that. So, but you're really smiling, Ida. What did you want to share something on this?
I feel like we're all on the same page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think having the artist rep or the artist themselves do the driving is always the best part. I'm also a fast scroller. So I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna be like, I'm one of those people that'll walk in a museum and go really fast, but I still feel like I took it in. I do think that one thing that I prefer is being able to end the meeting. So I always typically I'm always happy to supply the Zoom link. It's typically because I get random meetings get put onto my calendar. So I have to sometimes leave a little quicker. But I would just kind of set it up to the point that the artist can share their screen and it works really easily. But then if it, goes over time or I have to shut it down really quickly, I can do that without being disrespectful. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. So what do you want to see? Do you want to see a website? Do you want to see folders? Do you want to see PowerPoint? Do you want to see motion? Jen mentioned earlier, I want to see, did you mention this earlier? You want to see the produce and place stuff, what do you want to see? So I'm going to go to Jen because I feel like you have an answer ready for me. And then I want to go to Jana.
Yeah, I would. Earlier on, we probably wanted to see more of kind of what they created during the pandemic, like how they went about it, their process for that, the protocols, just so we could kind of understand how everyone was working. And now I feel like it's kind of, opening up a bit more. So it's just good to kind of see how people can flex and be, adjust to the various, if they need to scale down versus scale up. So, I think I'm fine going through a website. I mean, it's something I could do myself. So I'm fine if it's like a mix of the website, just to maybe kind of lay the land of this is what's here, but I put together a special PDF for you, or here's some personal work that's not on my website that I want you to see. So yeah, I think kind of, whatever works best. I certainly don't want the artist to have to do all the extra work to put together a presentation when it's something that's already on their website per se. So maybe it is just going through their website and explaining it more and talking to different things and aspects of it. So I think what is important though is just to have a plan. I've gotten on some where there's just no plan and they're like, well, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to show me? So just having a plan and having kind of, and knowing who you're talking to, what do they do? Who are their clients? What kind of work do they do, so that you can kind of point them in the right direction to show, work that's interesting and applicable.
Can I ask, it sounds to me like you don't want to give the artist extra work, and I certainly appreciate that, but a presentation that is catered to you is also what you really want, right? So it's sort of between those two things.
Yeah, I think some presentations can be universal though. They can put together a variety of work in one PDF and show that across the board. I think that it doesn't have to be super specific based off of what types of clients I have. It can kind of be universal if it is a PDF. So, yeah.
Would you agree with that, Jana?
Yeah, you know what? As an art director, I mean, I'm greedy for images. I want the backstage pass. I want to see the stuff that's not on the site, because chances are before I've gotten to that meeting, I've already cruised your site. I've done a big fast flip through just so I know who I'm talking to, and I can talk about your work with some degree of precision about your lighting or your vibe or whatever it is. But yeah, I want the secret stuff. I want the personal work. I want you to tell me why you're even in this business. Why do you even take pictures, and then show me the images that reflect that drive and reflect that passion. And if you put together some kind of deck that to me then says, you know what, you have done your homework, you have curated something, and not just maybe for me, I don't care, maybe it's something you recycled for another presentation, but it gives that extra little juice to the meeting where I am then going to remember the meeting a little bit more richly. And I think that if you show up to a meeting and you just say, yes, yeah, here's my website, you know, what kind of party is that? So is there a party favor? Like, I did this cool curated thing. And even, you know what, the way to come back from a meeting, if that doesn't actually happen, you do a follow-up. You say, oh, you know what, I'm totally going to send you this really sweet series that I did on, you know, young ice skaters. I don't know, whatever it is. So there's opportunities outside that meeting to follow up with a little extra something that you've curated.
I think that's a really interesting point. I know in the beginning of the pandemic, when we first started doing these kinds of meetings, there was a lot of flip books going on. And I think that's a kind of cool leave behind, like, hey, here's a, but I think that now I like what you're saying. I want to see the secret sauce. I want to see behind the thing. I want to see what I can't get to without you. I love that answer. And it's hard to be like, hey, wow me. And I don't think that's what you guys are saying at all, but it is for them to come in really like showing who they are. I think this is exactly why we're having this conversation, because this is what they need to know. And I know that, you know, there's a lot of people listening that really want to know, like, just tell us, we'll do it. You know what I mean? So I like that a lot. I really do. Ida, did you want to add on in that?
All I have to say, coming from agent world and agent brain, I think a lot of times when we went to meetings to like meet with big ad agencies, we would do that where we would, you know, kind of show them our reel and show them our work, but then we'd go back to the office and know what was curated and kind of make a PDF and a presentation to send it in the next day and be like, thank you so much for having us. I know we weren't here, but like, we didn't have this here, but like, we want you to have this. So I think that's a really good idea. I think any curated PDF is just nice.
Yeah. Well, and it's a nice follow-up, right? Like, you know, you were awesome and thank you. And here's more stuff because you should remember me. I'm great. You know what I mean? Like that's
exactly.
And even if it's later, even if it's like weeks later, I just got an email from somebody the other day who I still haven't responded to, but they said, hey, it was really great meeting you X number of months ago. I just finished this cool thing and I thought it'd be fun to share it with you, because that's what this is. We're all creative. It's like, oh my God, I made this thing. Let me show it to you.
Exactly.
I'm getting this question live from Kim. You all talked about meeting with artists rep solo or artists and artist rep. What information is the rep filling in during that meeting? It's a really interesting question. And versus when you're meeting with an artist solo, and what could an artist do to prepare if their rep can't join in the conversation? You know, Ida, I see you nodding, so I want you to answer this.
You know, I'm gonna bring up the question too, so I can just like see it.
I just it's done. I feel like
just in case, a little touch point. So basically, what I would say is to just come in, understand. Like, if your rep can't go, it's totally okay. I don't think that's something to ever worry about. I think one thing that you should just be cognizant of is, you know, rates. Talk about your rates. Talk about because most likely what we're going to do with your rep is talk about the legalities. Or when we talk about the contract, if the PO is a full buyout, if it's a work for hire, things like that. I think those are kind of the notes that not typically at least myself likes to talk about with artists. I give them kind of a rundown of like, you know, if they're not repped, I'll tell them everything and let them know because they're their own person. But when a rep is involved, I do like to talk to them about the more legal things and the more money-based things. And if they need a studio, if they need this and that. Because for the artists, I want them to solely talk about their work and solely tell them who they are, tell me who they are and all of these things. So I think that's what I would say to just be prepared with.
So just for clarity, that's not in the portfolio showing conversation. That's in the, I want to give you an assignment conversation, right?
Okay. Yes, exactly. And I think, you know, when it comes to some, like when I'm doing my job, that is a part of it. Like I need to know, like, yes, I think you'd be a great fit, but I want you to feel comfortable with our rates and our usage. So, and I think, you know, a lot of artists are kind of taken advantage of to an extent with like, you know, if they don't know how to read a contract correctly, or they don't understand, you know, kind of day rates versus per shot basis, kind of things like that. So I just think those are kind of questions to come to at the meeting if your rep can't be there. Like, you know, what do your day rates look like? Should I supply my own studio? Do I need to supply the stylist? Like, just be ready for those kind of questions, just to make sure, like, you know, you're set.
I want to go to Jen with this. Did you want to add anything to that?
I think it just kind of depends on the dynamic of the meeting and who all is involved. Like, you know, it's always nice to have the rep there, you know, as kind of, you know, they're kind of hosting it in a way, and they're kind of like, you know, making sure all the artists have time to be heard, and like, you know, they're great at like bringing out stories or bringing out examples that they think that would be, you know, pertain to us or something we'd be interested in hearing. So, you know, I think they always add a different element to the conversation if they're, you know, part of the mix, versus just being just the agent where they're kind of just going through the work and telling us stories, or versus just being the artist where they're going through their work and telling the stories. I think it's like a nice kind of like more well-rounded sort of experience in a way.
Jana, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I think what's nice about showing up to a meeting with your partner, your rep, your agent, whatever it is because you kind of bounce off ideas off of each other in a really casual way. And so, and then of course, okay, let me interject, and you know, we're going to trim that story back a little bit because we're running out of time. And then what's really lovely sometimes about having that partner in a meeting is that they can address capabilities, and they can say, okay, you know what, let's talk about production now. So from my perspective, I do love hearing, hey, how did you solve that particular problem where you had, you know, these and these logistics, and what was the creative solve? What was the production solve? And then what was sort of your like financial logistical solve for this crazy ask from the client that you needed to deliver in, 2 weeks? You know, like that's sometimes what the rep can kind of fill in the gaps in that umbrella story.
So that's really good advice, so that when you are meeting solo, maybe make sure to touch on those topics and be mindful of your time and all of those things. That's really good advice. Okay, so speaking of advice, you all bring me right to my next points really well. Best advice for reps prepping for these kinds of meetings, Jen.
I just kind of, I guess, be prepared, you know who you're talking to, you know, have, you know, if you've got, say, 10 artists you're bringing to the call, like make sure that, you know, it doesn't feel terribly rushed for everyone to get through their presentation. You know, everyone's got enough time. And then there's also time for conversation, because that's also a bit, you know, a part of it as well. And just kind of like definitely seeming like you've got a plan and an agenda, and you're kind of like owning the meeting and kind of like making sure that, you know, you're running through it, and you're not just kind of be like, okay, now what? Like, what do you guys want to do next? Like, I mean, I know that, you know, there is that sort of like openness to kind of like, you know, be flexible, but just kind of having a plan and knowing what you want to show and how you want to show it.
I want to emphasize this point because Jen, you've said it a couple of times now, having a plan, and having plan A and plan B, right? And maybe even plan C, not to say any or all of it has to happen, but you've said it several times. I really want to emphasize that point, having plans about how you're going to do this.
Yeah.
You guys can feel that, and it feels better. Right?
Yeah, it just feels more put together. Like they've thought about it, they've put together time to put a presentation together, but then you also leave some open-ended time to catch up in conversation. And, you know, so it does feel more organic in a way. It doesn't have to be like super structured, but, you know, it's like when you come into an office before, it was like you would lay out the books. You had a certain thing that you wanted to show. You wanted to make sure, you know, so it's just kind of the same thing, but it's in a different format in a way.
So here's my next question, which is, what is the best advice for artists prepping for these meetings? I know that, you know, portfolio events are happening where it is one-on-one with artists. And I know you guys have all participated in events like that and so on. So I want to go to Jana. What is the best advice you could give for an artist prepping for those kinds of meetings?
I'm going to say two things. And the first one is, I'm building off of Jen's point, have a plan. You've got 20 minutes, have a plan. Like, and that plan is part of you setting expectations for the meeting, not just for the person who's going to be looking at your work, but also for yourself. What do you want out of that meeting? And I'm starting to sound a little passionate here because this is my soapbox right now. It's my soapbox moment. I've been looking at books for like forever, ever. Somebody says, hey, you want to come and look at books? I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I will look at books like nobody's business. And what makes me astounded every single time is I will have an artist sitting there and they're showing me a book. And I will say, what do you want out of this meeting? How do you want to use these 20 minutes? And 9 times out of 10, they do not have an answer. So before you show up to any meeting, have an ask in the back of your head, in the back of your mind, in the back of your heart. Like, even if it's just like, I just want 20 minutes with this creative person on the other side of the table who's an art buyer, who's an art director, a creative director, a group head, somebody fabulous, somebody, middle of the career ladder, but kind of like have something in your heart that you want. Even if that ask is something as simple as, I just want to make a connection with you and start a relationship, or I want to walk out of this meeting finding out whether or not there are any available jobs or any available projects coming up. Like wherever you are on that spectrum, I can't emphasize this enough, but have an ask in your heart. And then during that meeting, you decide whether or not you're brave enough and to ask for that ask. But it's critical, because otherwise it's a mushy meeting. You're like, okay, that was great. It's like, okay.
I'm falling in love with all of you just again for today. You guys are just all so fabulous. I'm going to thank you at the end, but darn, I mean, all of you so smart and so fabulous. So I want to ask that question to Ida, because, and you can answer for either the right artist or the rep. I feel like the answer is for both is sort of similar, right? So Ida, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what Jana said is like exactly what I would have said.
Everything, I know.
I know it's like hard because I'm like listening to them and I'm like, yes. Like I get it and I completely agree. And I also think when you're in this industry, especially as women and especially as like creatives in general, I want to hear what you want, because we've all talked about what we want. We have to speak it into existence, and you have to tell me, because like I said earlier, like I want to meet with artists that feel like they haven't been heard and haven't been seen and deserve to be seen and have worked hard and have just been sitting in the corner waiting for their moment and haven't gotten it. Like, tell me what you want, and I may not be the person to help you, but I will help you get to that next spot, because like if somebody didn't do that for me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So I just think also like the plan thing, like, yes, come with that PDF, know what I want to look at. If it's like, an artist and it's a portfolio review, like come to me with your, like the project that you love the most. Like, tell me like, I went to this community, I've been photographing them for over 5 years. These are the changes. What do you think that I could change? Do you think there's a layout I could lay it out in better? Like, just be compassionate. Tell me what you're feeling, and we're gonna like rock it from there. Like, I can't add any more because these women are literally, I'm like, yeah, but
100%. But I am hearing from all of you guys that made that personal work, which, this is vastly important, and that all of you would be thrilled to be like, yeah, show it to me, right? The personal work, would we all agree that that's a wonderful thing to be presenting in this, showing professional obviously is good, but personal work being, you want to see the passion, you want to see the drive, and you're all nodding at me. So I like
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of times what sticks with you. Like, you remember, like, you may not, be in the position or have the types of clients that would hire for that specific type of style or work. But like, I might remember you for that series because you talked so passionately about it. And it was such a big part of your pastime, that led you to your professional work. So I definitely like those things because they help me remember people and helps them stand out.
I'm going to build on that for a second, because I think let's also be realistic too. Like, we as a photographer, you still need to sell your images. So you still need to present work that is, in some instances, depending on your audience, commercially relevant. And so if your audience or the art buyer or the producer that you're meeting with has no interest in personal work, then you're kind of reading the room and you're tailoring your work. But to Jen's point and Ida's point, having that plan, having it in your back pocket, you are ready to share it because you're excited about it, but also knowing that, you know what, this might not be the meeting where I'm going to share that because I really need this gig. And I am going to show that I'm prepared with work that is going to be relevant to the work that they in fact do, because I really need this, I really want to do this kind of work. So it's that balance between sharing the work that you have and then asking, say, hey, do you want to see some personal work? Hey, do you have any advice about what to do with this personal work? I love what Ida said about asking questions, like asking the questions in the meeting to say.
Well, and I love that you just made that point about the delegate balance. We often, from where I sit, I often hear that people in your position love to see personal work. And so I leaned into that, but I think that that balance element of the clarity that you just gave is so important. And I just want to thank you for making that point. I want to now sort of moving towards another thing, which is, do we see these meetings going back to in-person anytime soon? That's like, you can, from a production standpoint, in terms of creating events and so on, having people being able to sit in their homes and do these meetings and be able to do it in several different locations without having to get into their car, that seems to me to have a greater reach when, companies like mine kind of make these meetings, which we do. So to me, there's an element of this that's unique, but I'm wondering, what you think about, do you see these meetings going back to in person? Do you see people coming in and doing presentations in your companies again? I'm going to go with Jen because Jen's already nodding. So I'm going to go with Jen.
I don't see it happening for a while just because we don't know when we're going back to the office yet. And I think, that's going to be a little bit. And then once we get back, we'll still probably have to ease into it. So we won't probably be bringing outside vendors or people in as much as we used to. So I think, these are definitely here to stay. I think it enables people from all over the world, all over the country to kind of meet and talk and where we wouldn't have been able to do that before, or it would have been a lot harder, a lot more involved with logistics and coordinating and whatnot. And you might not be as able or willing to give of your time because it was, more sort of consuming during the day. So I think it'll eventually get to be more of a hybrid, like where we will have some people in the office, down the road and then keep these going. I think it's a nice kind of mix. And it allows us, I think, to see more people in the long run.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Ida, did you want to add to that?
I agree. As much as I love reviews, and it was always so much fun, like cater and bring all the books and get some like music in the background, make it like real fun. I just think that, in the times that we're in, we just need to be cognizant of everyone's anxieties about it, make everyone comfortable and heard and seen. So I think, as of right now, I think we're all doing what we can. And I think, we're all thriving in it. But I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's really going to be back to normal or we're going to all meet together again. So.
Jenna, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I miss the big agency reviews, partly because it gets me out of my head. So the reps come in, there's all these books, tablets and whatnot. And I can cruise through, 10, 20 books in a really short amount of time, like just doing the fast flip and just to get a vibe or a read off of the talent roster. The other thing that I do like about in-person meetings is, as the art director, I get a body language read off of my person. And that to me is huge. I'm going to be with you on set for 12 hours a day. So we need to get along. And I also know that I may be that person with a client who's saying, I know that was our agreed shot list, but do we have time to add X, Y, and Z? And you just kind of say, sure. Let me go have a conversation with some people. And I want to know up front whether or not that creative team that we've just hired to create this campaign is going to have a meltdown, or are they going to say, yeah, let's figure something out. There's always a solution, so having that in-person read is always like helpful to the process, to the creative process, so that you can come together and create something beautiful together.
Really good answer. Okay, so I feel like the next question is a little redundant. Do you prefer one over the other? Because Jenna, you really just kind of, you prefer in person over the other, over the
Yeah.
yeah. Jen, do you have a preference, one over the other, or is it?
I like a mixture.
Mm-hmm. Ida, would you agree with that mixture, or do you have a preference?
Same, mixture is good.
Okay, so the big question is, are you hiring from these meetings? You guys are having these meetings, and are you assigning from these meetings and people that you've met in these various avenues where these happen? Jen is nodding.
I mean, we've definitely bid from them just because we've just met with someone, they're front of mind when something comes around. So yeah, I mean, it definitely can be relevant, depends on, timing and the projects hitting at the right moment.
And oh, I'm sorry, Ida, would you answer that for me too?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think, when it comes to hiring creatives, I'm the only one that really kind of meets with everyone. So what I do is I compile lists and I, vet people for what they've done. And then I go to my team. So really it's kind of like a big step process where I discuss it. I find the artist and then I bring it to my team. So it could go either way. Like I try my hardest to, hire whoever I can, but it's really just based on, of course, timing, budgets, and like what's coming down the pipeline. So it's always worth it to just try, but really like I can't ever promise anything at the end.
Of course, absolutely. And Jana, did you want to weigh in on that?
You know what, I'm sort of in a different world as an art director, because I'm not necessarily hiring from those meetings. I'm really doing those meetings to collect, more input to my brain. But I will quote the New York Lottery, you never know. you just never know. And it may be a long lead. Right. It may be a long lead.
Okay, and so I have a question from an audience member. I always tried to send a thank you to creative buyers who gave so generously of their time to look at my work, but with no one being at the office now and feeling it's widely inappropriate to ask for someone's home address, how can you genuinely express your gratitude? How can someone genuinely express their gratitude towards you? A Starbucks card? Just kidding. But it's a legit question. So I see, Ida, you're nodding to me. So I'm going to go to you.
I think this is an amazing question. Also hilarious. So I am so glad someone brought up sending, leave behinds. I love leave behinds. I love to see your work and how you kind of make it into this mini thing. I'm not 100% comfortable giving away my home address to like mountains of people. I appreciate the ask. I think it's only coming from generous places. I honestly think in this day, and kind of like this climate, I think just keeping in touch, just check in, say hello, even if it's just to say hi or like, hey, I did this one story. I'd love for you to see it. Give me like a gift that you created or something. But, just I think keeping in touch is the gratitude that is good right now. And I think all of us can kind of understand the kind of barriers that we're all at, and no need to send anything. Just say hi, keep in touch, be nice.
Jana's laughing. Go ahead, Jana. You want to add to that?
Nice. I mean, Jen's got the sign up behind her there. Be nice.
Yeah. I'm very jealous of Jen's sign, I have to say.
It's a good one.
So good. Okay, so I feel like we have actually gone through all of our topics. Are there any silver linings of, this switch, this new normal, anything that you guys would like to comment on? I feel like I want to start with Jen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's opened it up to meeting with people all over the place. You don't have to get on a plane and fly across the country to meet with someone. Like I can meet with someone in Boston, or I can meet with someone in Australia, and really kind of connect with someone at different times of the day that we wouldn't normally be able to in the office. So I think it's really opened that up, and it's made it more accessible and more available to doing it. So I think that's the silver lining for me.
I couldn't agree more. Ida, did you want to give us your thought?
Yeah, I think, as of right now, like, of course, we all miss, being around other people, but I do think it's given access to people that have never had it before or never felt like they did have it. And one of the big soapboxes that I continuously stand on is just bringing awareness to bringing in more Black and Brown talent across the board for everyone. And I think somewhat as much as this, pandemic has caused so much sadness and a lot of like, turmoil in the US and all of that. I do think it's given an option and given an opening to people that have never thought that they deserved it or never thought that they could do it. So I think, this is the time to shoot your shot. Like, let us know, hit us up on email, hit us up on LinkedIn. But I think now is the time. If you've got the asset, go for it. And if not now, when? So.
Jana, I'm going to end with you.
The inspiring thing that I've taken away, the silver lining that continues to glow brightly for me in the last 14 months is that this creative community that we are all so lucky to be a part of, it's like people just have used their creative talents to continue shooting, to continue making art, to continue making something and sharing it. And if they didn't have the tool, they made the tool. And just hearing those stories about how people said, I was in the taxi, but I had this thing over my mouth, but I was shooting this thing on the other side of the whatever. And then I had to use my phone and I was trying to direct them through Zoom to frame the shot. It makes me so happy to hear that people are still making art every day.
Well, I'm just going to end with, that was beautiful. And I just want to end with saying that I am madly in love with all of you people. I think you guys are amazing. I can't, and my silver lining is, who knew I was going to do a webinar like a year and a half ago? I had no idea. And I've gotten to meet so many amazing people through this forum. And so it's weird to say it, but I'm very thankful for Zoom. It has let my mom sit next to me at Thanksgiving. It has, and my birthday and her birthday. And it's allowed me to meet all of you guys and to see people face to face that I'd only spoken to on the phone before. It's allowed, I know it's very distant, but it's allowed a level of intimacy that I am so grateful for, specifically when you're so isolated, right? So that's my silver lining. But really, all of you guys are my silver lining. Getting to meet you guys, getting to hear what you guys have to say. This stuff makes me ridiculously happy. So I could not thank you enough. Like, this has been amazing. We're like right on time. We covered everything. Like, yay. So I just want to thank you all for answering my emails when I write to you, for coming on today, for being so gracious and generous and just awesome sauce. And honestly, all of your rooms are really good. Like, I need to figure mine out. I'm only got a good room today is because I came into the workbook office. So like, I got to work on it because you guys are making me feel like, step it up. So anyways, thank you. And I'm just going to wave good. Oh, and I forgot to say, there's somebody nobody can see right now. His name is Jim Hudak. He's my tech director. He makes this stuff work like really, really well. And I would be remiss if I did not just take a quick second to say thank you to him. He works really hard. So thank you, everybody, and yay.
Thank you.